Welcome to another episode of AMS Spotlight, where we sit down with some of the biggest minds in the mortgage and real estate world to talk strategy, market trends, and what's actually happening behind the curtain of lending. Today, I'm joined by Bobby McIntyre with Nations Direct Mortgage. We're going to be diving into what separates lenders in today's market, what's helping brokers win right now, and why certain lender relationships become game changers for loan officers and borrowers alike. Bobby, thanks for coming in today.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. So before we jump into the market and everything that's crazy has been going on, I always like to start a little bit, on the personal so people get to know who they're listening to. Tell me a little bit about you. What originally got you into the mortgage industry?
Well, probably like so many people out there in the mortgage industry, my family did it. Just graduating college, not really exactly sure what you wanted to do. My mother did mortgages, sister did mortgages before me. I think I'm the only person left in mortgages, but we're having fun here. So I've been doing it since I was around 21 years.
Actually, same. And it was family too. It was some crazy uncles in Colorado. So what's kept you in was it just that you got in there, you were immediately good, you knew what you were doing, you had the background? What kept you in lending? Because we've had some hard times if you've been doing it since 21.
Yeah. So what keeps me in it? I don't know. Part of it is finances and stuff like that. You can make a very good living doing this job, but it has to be a little bit more than that. The things that wake you up and motivate you every day are really just problem solving. Our industry is full of problems. I told myself I wanted to learn one new thing every day. I end up learning like 5 new things every day, even after 12 years of doing this. There just seems to be like always a plethora of new problems that arise, people doing something unique with their financing, and just helping people get through that and into homes. I think that's really what keeps me motivated.
So you're one of AMS Mortgages, one of our top brokers, and it's been getting you better year after year. What do you think that's attributed to?
I think it's attributed to because it takes kind of the partnership between the broker and lender, and I think every broker out there really has unique needs, and understanding what those needs are and trying to tailor fit your wholesale lending experience to that broker is paramount. And I think that's what we've done. Company like AMS, very bent on service and communication and being able to get the answers up front. Is this a yes? Is this a no? Because you guys, for what it's worth, don't want to put your clients in bad situations, which is great. There are a lot of more reckless loan officers out on the market that will put a borrower through an application and hope for the best. AMS doesn't like to do that. We don't like to do that either. So when you get two people whose goals kind of align, that's when a partnership really starts to build.
Yeah, and there are quite a lot of people who do like to do that. Call it throwing it at the wall and seeing if it sticks. Not exactly the best business strategy. All right, so we established you're a real human being. That's always a step in the right direction in this day and age.
Yeah.
So for people that don't know Nation's whole side, no, I'm sorry,
Nations Direct. There you go.
so many people end in wholesale. Nation's Direct. What can you tell us about the company?
We have been around since 2007, which makes us probably one of the longest standing members of the wholesale community. We service most of our own business. We are privately owned, and we are a wholesale only operation. So we exist solely to have a servicing portfolio and to help brokers like you in the industry. We don't employ any of our own loan officers. We don't employ any of our own retention group. We are strictly here to service you guys, throughout this partnership.
So, and I think you answered some of this question, some of this in just what you said, but what would you say differentiates Nations Direct from the top competition that you're directly dealing with?
Well, we have a lot of competitors out there and we do a lot of things better and, some things worse than most people. If you take a look at the big lenders out there, the top 4 or 5 guys that dominate a lot of the market share, what they're bringing is streamlined tech. They are bringing, a uniform process. Whereas what we're bringing is really someone that kind of listens to each originator and kind of decides, one, what it is that they're asking us to fulfill for them. But then two, also some of it being our expertise and saying, I think that this is what this loan officer really needs help with. I'm going to make sure that we stay on top of this. This is a guy who processes his files excellently and always forget to request a CD. So our team, hey, for this person, set a reminder out there and stuff like that. That is paramount. And I know a lot of people like to say, hey, we bring the human element and there's more of a human feel and stuff like that, but they don't actually, that just means that they're smaller. It doesn't mean they're actually providing anything additional to the loan officer. Whereas I think that we do. You like a certain underwriter, we're going to try and get you that underwriter more. You need a closing at a pinch, we're going to make that happen. And we kind of see really what is important to you and the growth of your business, more importantly than anything else. Because I don't need to teach a loan officer how to sell a mortgage as much as I do need to assist them with growing that, right? So you guys go out there, you work very hard, you have a realtor relationship that is hinging on you getting more future business. And when we close that transaction, I want it to be done smoothly and successfully, right? So it's not just about, did we close the transaction or did we not close the transaction? That does not define success or failure in our industry as much as we like to think it does. What defines success and failure was, did the realtor and the borrower and the buyer have a great experience using you? And that is really what we're looking to do. And how we do that is, we move quickly. We ask for minimal amount of stuff in terms of overlays. And, we really eliminate a lot of the back and forth that mortgage process can often have. And it leaves everybody walking away saying, hey, I'm really glad that I just used AMS for this transaction. I'm definitely going to use them again in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's, at least in my opinion, that's what collaboration is really about. You're 100% right. It should be our job to train the loan officers how to sell, but having a partner in there that can go and take us to the finish line makes all the difference in the world. So what would you say? Because there's so many lenders that have the same product and they'll all pitch it, but what would you say is really your niche?
I think what I would be pushing in terms of like what Nation specifically offers over others is really just that kind of wide breadth of products and expertise. And I know it's not like a specific product or whatever. In fact, sometimes when I go to these trade shows and I listen to other account executives pitch their case, and when I go into realtors' offices and I hear other loan officers pitch their case, I think they pigeonhole themselves a little bit too much by talking about too specific of a product. It's always nice to be, oh, I'm the investment property guy, I'm the non-QM guy, I'm the FHA guy. That's great, but what I want to be is like the partner that can offer a little bit of everything, right? So somebody that you can trust with your business. So if you have utilized Nation's Direct Mortgage as a loan officer at AMS, I want you to have that confidence that, hey, this guy did a great job on my 2 conventional loans. I have this non-QM loan now. Who should I use for that? Should I go sign up a new lender? Should I risk a new partnership? I have a very important relationship on the line with this transaction. I don't want to go and use somebody that I don't know. I want to use somebody that I trust. And that is really where we've kind of made our way by offering that large product set. We give you guys the comfortability of just like, okay, great. I'm tackling a new product out there. I'm selling a second mortgage. I'm selling a DSCR. I've never done one before, but I can utilize Bobby, and I know Nations Direct, and I know they're going to have my back and use me. And I don't have to sign up that super niche lender just to get that done.
That is huge because we even from a hiring process, when we're looking to bring on new loan officers, there's always like, oh, can you bring on these people, can you bring on that people? And I've been recently doing these podcasts with some of our more successful loan officers, and I think one of the common denominators is they're not talking about the 60 to 70 lenders we're signed up with. They're sending their business to 2 to 3 people. And I think that's huge because, like, honestly, who wants to learn more than that in systems as well, So I think one of them is like, I was talking to one of our guys and they're big on like, I call them, they can get it done. They're straight. They tell me if they can't do it, so that is big. In the past year or 2 years with, the market just going absolutely nuts, up and down. What have you seen some of the more successful people that you work with? What has been their strategy? Would you say they're doing more investment loans? There's a mix.
When we talk about navigating today's market, and by today's market, I really mean probably the last 4.5 years or so, I would say most of the successful brokers in my market, which is again, New Jersey and Pennsylvania. So I kind of speak very regionally here. A lot of the most successful brokers in my market lock up front, but they don't try and time the market or so. And I'm not saying you always have to lock every client on day one, right? But most of the time we are doing that. And the reason we're doing that is because, one, the market is so unpredictable. If we think about what is shaking and moving interest rates out there today, 90% of that is attributed to, conflict in the Middle East. Out of all of our controls, and it's really out of any of our wildest predictions. We don't know what's going to happen day to day. I couldn't have woken up and told you that the 10-year was going to drop by about 9 points this morning. The important thing is that when you're selling a client, you make them feel comfortable with the rate and the payment. And as soon as they are, you lock them in, right? It could always get better, but it could always get so much worse. And what I find is that people don't tend to be as thankful that you saved them an eighth by floating and playing the market as they are upset when you tell them a certain rate and then that rate jumps up a quarter, 3/8. Yeah. So it's just the risk,
100%.
the risk for the small amount of reward that we could ever hope to do. The second thing that people have really done that has made them successful over the past 4.5 years, especially on the broker end as well, is you really have to navigate these windows that we have for refinances, and your borrowers have to be prepared as well. And what does that ultimately mean? One, it means staying in touch with your client base. If you gave somebody a purchase, you have to stay in contact with them. Not too often. You don't want to be bothering these people, but just enough so they know you're still there and that you are watching the market for them. That's probably the most important thing out there. Make sure that they understand, hey, I am here. I am watching the market. When it is time to save you money, I'm going to give you the call, but then it's go time. And the reason you have to kind of prep that conversation and can't wait until rates drop is what we have been seeing on our end is we have had rate dips that have lasted 24 hours. We've had ones that have lasted 48, 72 hours. What we have not seen is a massive rate dip that has lasted for 4 to 5 weeks at any period almost over the past 4.5 years. So the loan officers who take advantage of that are the ones that prep the clients ahead of time. They stay in contact with their past referral base and they call up and they lock in that interest rate to save the borrower money almost on day 1 or 2 of that interest rate dip. And I think we're going to continue to see that over the next year or so. We're going to continue to see what we call these windows of refinances, right? We're not going to see super, super high sustained rates. We're not going to see super, super low sustained rates. We're going to see a lot of this up and down, right? So if you're a loan officer and you're doing your job correctly and you're kind of locked into what you're doing, pay attention to that and also make sure that your clients are ready to move when you're ready to.
That is great advice. So much of what you said, it resonates with me. Do I follow all of it? I wish I did, especially with the interest rates, because you let emotion control you with these clients when they ask, well, do you think rates could fall tomorrow? And you're like, hey, it's your choice to lock. Every time I say that, it bites me in the butt.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yeah.
So let's lighten it up a little bit.
Okay.
What would you say would be the wildest loan scenario you've ever had that you were actually able to get done?
I'll tell you one that I just CTC'd as of 10 minutes ago. And it may be up there, to be honest with you. As you may or may not be aware, or as some of your loan officers may or may not be aware, Fannie Freddie has removed their minimum FICO requirement and are now issuing out this kind of AUS approvals. If you got a co-borrower, it strengthens it out, it averages it out. But we actually just successfully CTC'd, as of 10 minutes ago, a borrower with a 530 FICO score in a conventional loan purchase, which I think is pretty cool. And I congratulated the loan officer on being the first to do it. He laughed. He thought I was joking at first. I said, I'm not joking. It is an impressive feat. And I hope that the realtor that you're partnering up with, because it was his first deal with that realtor, I hope that they can understand what kind of a broker lending partner it takes to get one of those files closed.
I've never heard of that type of deal done on a conventional loan. That's amazing. Were there any specific parameters of it? I know loan officers are going to be asking that question when they watch it. What was the down payment, stuff like that?
Yeah, so great question. One, most of the time AUS is going to want some sort of co-borrower on there with a, potentially higher score. Now, I believe our 530 FICO borrower was the only one occupying, so that was kind of cool. The other big thing about this too, and just something to keep in mind, we did start off with 15% down. We had to move to 20% down. The reason for that being, we're cool with it. You guys are cool with it. The MI companies have not yet become cool with it, right? So you have a 530 FICO score. Nobody wants to issue out an MI cert on that. 20% down is going to be sort of that requirement if you have a borrower below, I believe, a 600 FICO. But it is opening you up to a lot more lending options for those clients. I mean, I go down pretty far on an FHA loan. I go down to a 550 FICO. I couldn't even do this borrower FHA if I wanted to. Yet I'm getting him done conventional today, and that's great to see.
Yeah, and I think that's what it comes down to, huge product knowledge, because there's a lot in the Fannie and Freddie guidelines that people don't really even know about, or they don't keep themselves updated, like to be like, hey, is this possible? Most people are going to be like, oh yeah, if you don't have a 620, you can't do a conventional loan. So I think that just knowing that there are ways to get this done means one, they need to be partnering with somebody who knows their stuff like you, and two, they need to make education daily part of their day and not, relying on AI. Which brings me to my last point. How do you see, and I'll typically ask this question of lenders everywhere because everybody's spoon feeding this every 2 seconds. How do you see AI affecting our business going forward?
I'm going to give you a very rare answer for a 33-year-old, I think, which, I may sound like I'm 60 something here when I say this, but I am not typically a huge believer in AI. I think AI is probably good for what it's good for, to give you kind of a general guideline that you can then do the additional research on your own. I think we're a little while away from AI truly intervening in our business in a material way. I know there are some wholesale lenders out there that continue to utilize it more and more. And I'm not resistant to the change as much as I am trying to recognize that what we deal with are very large transactions. I mean, this is the biggest purchase that people will make in their lives. If you're buying a $500,000-$600,000 home, there's just not really anything else that I could think of out there for the average person that you would spend $500,000-$600,000 on. When the stakes are that high and when the purchase price is that high and all that, I cannot rely on AI models, which, by the way, typically boast like an accuracy rating of 70 to 80%. If I'm 70 to 80% in the answers that I'm giving you, and then you're giving your realtor, and then you're giving your home buyer, I'd be out of business tomorrow. I can't afford to be right on 4 out of 5 deals. I have to be right on 98 out of 100 deals. So until AI kind of gets to that point, I don't really see it being useful as far as like actually transacting a loan process. However, it is nice sometimes, if you go to Google, I'm sure you see the AI links, hey, can I do this with a loan? Can I do that with a loan? The only thing I caution loan officers for is that AI most of the time is right. Some of the times it's wrong. So what I would use it for is search that, allow AI to direct you to the actual guideline, but please go to the actual guideline and read it like a human being would and ask yourself, is this something an underwriter would agree with?
Just like writing a paper in college, you got to show your sources. We've been building, just for our own loan officers, an internal database where we compare like all of our lenders' matrices, products, and stuff like that. But I literally, because I programmed it, I literally have a warning on here. Here's where it's getting its information from. Click it and double check because I think it's a great research tool. But as a millennial and Gen Z before me, I think we know when we're dealing with somebody who's AI, talking to AI, if the chat's AI, if we're on a dating app and they're replying using AI, sorry, that's a sore point for me, but I think we're able to tell, and I think as we keep on going on, the human touch is going to become more, it's going to become more important because people can realize, I mean, you realize when something's being, even if it's, sounds like a human, talks like a human, there's something that's missing, and I want to deal with a human when I'm dealing with the biggest purchase of my life. So I appreciate it, but I also think it's a good lesson to people who think it's going to solve all their problems. Oh, I'm going to go in here and figure out how to market. Even if it gets to the point where it's sending out, 50 perfect ads a day, human element is not going to put you in front of everybody else that's doing it, and it's just going to get stale. So I do love that answer.
I actually just
Good.
spoke recently on this too. I noticed last year, and it's kind of died down, which is great to see. But some of the loan officers in my community, they're posting a lot on social media, AI videos, AI images of themselves and stuff like that. And I really, really caution people, use AI if you would like to enhance your business. Do not use it to replace yourself. If you are using AI to replace yourself, either in a video or a marketing campaign or whatever, you have completely lost any edge or any ploy to use you at all, really. In fact, I got feedback one time a few years ago. I had a loan officer who just didn't answer any of my emails. I tried time and time again to partner up with them, finally met them at an event. And I said, hey, let me ask you a question. Because I'll do this sometimes. I pull up my phone. I said, look at this. I got about 15 emails in a row. Once every week or 2 weeks of me emailing you and no reply. Like, what gives? Like, what can I do to get a reply? And he just goes, I don't really answer the AI type of emails. I'm like, well, this isn't AI. This is just me trying to sound professional. And he goes, really? It kind of reads like AI. And then I had to kind of take stock of what I was doing. And I'm like, I've always written a little formally and professionally for people I don't know, but maybe some of that is going away a little bit. And I'm not saying be unprofessional by any means, but what I'm saying is don't be afraid to be a little bit more personal than you ever have been before in your sales pitch when you're reaching out to people that you don't do business with too. Be personable, let your personality shine through your emails and stuff like that. It's more important than ever because you're up against people who are mass AI generating out information and emails. And if you start sounding like AI yourself because you're trying to sound a little bit too like generic or vanilla, you're going to get completely lost.
Yeah. Well, we're making a reel just on this. This was good. All right. So before we end this conversation, Bobby, anything you'd want to tell loan officers out there right now about you, about Nations Direct?
Yeah, I would say right now, like if I could share any advice with loan officers, and I would do the same with account executives, and I would do the same with realtors and stuff like that. This market for 2026 so far is not kind of what some of us had hoped it would be. The interest rates being elevated and stuff like that, hurting definitely the spring market a little bit. Purchases are starting to come back around right now, but there are always things to do to keep yourself busy. And this is the most important thing. I think successful salespeople in our industry will find different things to do on a monthly basis. If there is not a huge flood of loans coming into the pipeline, this is the time. And this is why I've been setting up meetings with brokers and stuff like that. We're focusing now on education so we can prepare for the next wave of loans. So if you're a loan officer out there today, stick with your realtor partners, your referral partners, keep calling your database. That's all well and good. But what you're going to notice is that you have a little bit more free time on your hands than normal. Utilize that free time. Use that free time to learn a new non-QM product. Use it to call your past database and see if they're interested in doing a cash out on a second. Use that time to just learn something that you don't know that you think could help your business. If you don't know something that you don't know that could help your business, reach out to someone like me. Reach out to an interesting wholesale lender and ask them questions. Anything I'm missing, this is my client base, anything that could help me build a business in the future. I'm taking time right now. I'm reading back through some of our guidelines. I'm trying to pull out any interesting tidbits of information that I think could net me a few loans in the future. And that's really been the focus.
Nice. Great advice. So, Bobby, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on today and talk with me. I think conversations like this are important because they show people that mortgages are not just rates and it's not just numbers on a screen. And the relationships behind all this is what really is important in a market like this. So if you're watching this and you're a loan officer looking to grow, or you just want to be around people performing at this level, reach out, start the conversation, and we will see you on the next episode of AMS Spotlight. Have a good day, everyone.